our October 5th APA meeting. We're excited for a fun-filled presentation of the 16 ballot measures you'll see on our ballot in a couple of weeks. You'll have a chance to give us your vote today on whether to support, oppose, or remain neutral on all 16 of these issues. If you don't have a voting ballot in the room, please raise your hand and we'll get you one. And as always, we are recording on Zoom. For Zoom participants, please post your questions or comments or I guess your vote on the chat. The chat button is on the bottom and looks like a bubble. And can the Zoom participants hear me at this level? Harriet, Jeff, Carolyn?
There's a wave.
Okay, cool.
I guess that's a wave.
Okay. But we're asking people
We
not,
can't hear Mindy.
okay, I'm the only one talking, so that's good.
Can't hear Mindy or can?
Can't.
Yeah.
Cannot.
Oh my
You,
goodness.
you obviously said something to me, but I didn't know what it was.
I can hear Mindy though. Harriet, I can hear her and I'm on Zoom.
Okay, well,
Ah.
we'll keep trying. I think Jeff's gonna leave because he just can't hear well. I'll probably hang with us.
Yeah, we'll try and speak up as loud as we can, but
That's
this,
right.
I am talking about as loud as my voice will go right now, Harriet.
Mhm.
Please do not film, do not use your cell phone to film our meetings when we're presenting. It's distracting to the speakers. And the program will be entirely on our YouTube channel when we're done. We want to recognize any new members or first-time attendees to stand up, say hello. I don't think we have anybody new on Zoom. So is there anyone in the room who has not been here who would like to introduce themselves? Oh, okay. We also do collect donations as you're able. This helps pay for rental of the room, for our Zoom subscription, our MailChimp subscription for emailing you, and some of the social things that we do throughout the year. So we'll pass the basket around.
Mindy, can I interrupt? I meant to clear this with other people first, but I didn't, so I'm just gonna say it. If you didn't bring something to take notes on and you want to take notes on these 16 things and you want to do it on your ballot, I think the way to do that is do it on your ballot, and take a picture of your ballot before you turn it into us, and then you'll have it. For what it's worth.
Okay. Yeah, we won't hold you to what's written on your ballot. You mean don't get to keep it as our notes? We take pictures with Jim said.
If you want us to take into consideration your
Or-
input.
Or you could grab an extra
Yeah.
one and there are extra ones.
Okay, each month we hear quick reports from our action team leaders, and we're just gonna go around here.
Excuse me, Mindy, do you want to mention anything about timekeeping?
Well, we're the ones talking, so we will pay attention to you, Pat. Pay attention to me.
Okay.
2 minutes.
Allison, do you want to go first for communications and then education?
Sure. Communications is quick. You'll get a lot of information today about each ballot measure. Each ballot measure is on our Arvadans for progressiveaction.org election page. And each one at the end of this meeting, when we decide whether to endorse, not endorse, or have no say, that our vote will be, our official APA stance will be on our website. So if you have any questions about what was that bill again and what did it say, it'll all be on our website. And our recommendation will be on there. Plus every candidate and Joyce will announce our endorsement survey went out and who will endorse. So it'll be a great election tool. So it'd be very useful if you have friends that aren't sure what the ballots are. We hope that you'll share the website. So that's the biggest thing. Just share the website out, spend a lot of time gathering all this data, and I hope that people use it. And then education team, short update, spoiler alert, I'm a no on 80. Next weekend there will be a a lit walk for No on 80 with the Jefferson County Education Association. So if you are interested in walking for No on 80, I will be doing that next weekend on the 12th. I will send that out in the education team newsletter. And if you just want lit for the other walks that you're doing for other candidates, it'd be a great time to just like come pick up lit, and then you can drop that with other walking that you're doing for other candidates. So, and that's it for me. So move on down.
Kathy?
Okay, the October meeting is canceled. People are really involved with elections. And if you're feeling stressed like I am, you're not alone.
This is the October meeting.
The healthcare action team meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's, sorry about that.
Alternate universe.
Yeah, our next healthcare action team meeting will be on November 16th at 4 p.m. on Zoom. And input from everyone is needed for that. Also, just to let you guys know, open enrollment for Medicare runs from October 15th through December 7th. There are a lot of changes. My premium jumped from $20 a month to $55. So be sure to check your, if you're have an independent drug plan, you should check it and make sure that it's the right thing. Good news, $2,000 cap on there's a $2,000 cap on out-of-pocket costs for prescription drugs, and that starts in 2025. Okay, so that's all I got.
Bruce, anti-war.
Yeah. I'm gonna stand up so I can be heard. Sometimes, yeah, my voice isn't super loud. I just have a couple of announcements. Not for the day. The anti-war vigil protest is at 52nd and Wadsworth. It's ongoing. It's every Saturday morning from 10 to 11. We like anyone that wants to show up for that, to show up for that. There's also a rally at Brittany Pedersen's office, 550 South Wadsworth at 4 p.m. this Monday to urge her to support stopping weapons to Israel and a ceasefire and those issues. Please attend if you can. Also, I just want to remind people that it's not possible to save the earth without stopping the war. So just a thought to keep in mind the importance of speaking to anyone that'll listen that we need to stop these wars.
Yes, saving the earth, climate, Darwan.
Thanks, Mindy. And building off of Bruce's point, we need to keep in mind that wars have a big impact on climate as well. There's tremendous amounts of emissions from all the military activities that are happening because of the wars. They're not counted, unfortunately, even though it could be as much as some countries, how much emissions is coming from the wars that are going on around the world. On a more state level, I want to note that there's not much climate related with regards to these ballot initiatives that we're talking about. And part of it is because of a grand compromise that happened this year between Governor Polis and 9 of the environmental organizations. The compromise was that they wouldn't put out ballot initiatives phasing out oil and gas in exchange for oil and gas industries, the oil and gas industry not funding ballot initiatives to promote oil and gas production. So this is something that we should talk about at a future meeting for a climate action team. We're not going to have a meeting this month, but we will have one next month because the Arvada Climate Action Plan has been delayed. It was originally going to be presented to City Council November 18th, but it's been delayed by at least a month. It probably won't be until December or January before we can put the climate action plan for Arvada in front of City Council. So the city staff requested this so that they had more time to give their input and finalize the climate action plan. But it also is a kind of a blessing in disguise because it gives us more time to get Arvada organizations to support it and get their endorsement for the letter of support before we present the climate action plan to the city of Arvada. So that's it for the climate action plan.
Thanks, Darlon. And I'll close with affordable housing. We don't have regular team meetings, but there's a lot of activity going on in Arvada regarding especially homelessness at this point. You've probably heard that the city did purchase a building at 60th near Sheridan, potentially to use for what's called a navigation center. There's a lot of misinformation, disinformation now. You know, the neighbors do have some valid concerns that the city will need to address, but they're also just, you know, they're saying it's only, you know, we're gonna have drug addicts everywhere. It's gonna be a homeless shelter, and, you know, and they are exaggerating some of the things that, you know, that's stoking fear among residents, and there was a rather dismal town hall that the city led several weeks ago. Most people who went couldn't even get in. It was very well attended, but again, you couldn't hear a lot and a lot of misinformation. The neighborhoods that are most upset have been urging people to show up this Monday night at a city business council, a business meeting of city council. So it's at City Hall. It nominally starts at 6, and you're allowed 3 minutes of public comment. So they're recruiting a lot of people to make public comment. I've also been recruiting people who signed their petition supporting the concept of a navigation center. And we will have some people there trying to correct the misinformation and clarify some things that the city has been doing that most people are not aware of to already address the homelessness and affordable housing crisis in our area. So if you haven't already planned to go, I'm not sure you want to face the crowds in person necessarily, but you can submit comments remotely or even just send written comments to city council. Thank you. At this point, I'm turning it over to our star leader, Joyce, for the rest of the meeting.
Okay, I'm Joyce Richardson. I'm the chair of the Political Action Committee, and we've had a very, very busy year this year, but we had a forum last month and we're having the ballot measure brouhaha today. So, but before we jump into the ballot measures, we'd like to announce that our APA candidate endorsements for the year. We put out an endorsement survey. Our members had until yesterday to turn it back in. So here are the results. Let's see, candidates must, in order to be endorsed, must receive at least 60% of the vote of the people who have turned in their endorsement survey. All of the candidates listed below received a percentage of between 95 and 100%. So they're pretty much, our members are real happy with the endorsements. So House District 24, and we endorse Lisa Ferre. House District 27, APA endorses Brianna Titone. Senate District 19, APA endorses Lindsay Dougherty. CU Region at Large, APA endorses Elliott Hood. Jeffco Commissioner District 1, APA endorses Rachel Zenzinger. Jeffco Commissioner District 2, APA endorses Andy Kerr. And Congressional District 7, APA endorses Brittany Pedersen. And we had a much earlier survey where we asked our members whether to endorse the Harris Walls campaign, and that was overwhelmingly yes. Hence, I got to wear my shirt today. So now on to the ballot measures. We will be sharing a lot of information with you today, and you can always check out our YouTube recording if you want to hear all of this again. The slides and the blogs that you will see today are going to be on the website, arvadansforprogressiveaction.org, and some of them are even up now. The leadership team took on the research and presentation of 2 ballot measures each so that we could dig into the facts a little more deeply without having to do all 16 of them. So if you have different outlooks, you'll have a little bit of time at the end during question and answer to state your piece, and we will post the outcome of the ballots that you have here today on our website and our Facebook page. And the way this will work today is our presenters will tell you about the ballot initiative, what they found out about it, and what the leadership team we got together on Thursday thought about it. Remember, your leadership team is made up of volunteers, and we have done our best with our research and conclusions. Please make a note on your ballot if you have questions so that you can ask us at the end. Okay, so first, we're gonna have Mindy talking about DEFCO 1A and RTD 7.
Yeah, so these are two ballot measures that are more local. They're not statewide. And so there's pros and cons in the very slender Jeffco Blue Book, which isn't really blue, that came in people's mailboxes yesterday. We did have at our August APA meeting, Commissioner Leslie Dahlkemper and Treasurer Mary DeTullio here. They did talk about 1A, the revenue retention. This is the ballot language. I won't read it. Please go to the next one, Taylor. Basically, most everyone knows by now, Tabor, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, was enacted in 1992. And our world has changed a lot since 1992. But what Tabor does is restrict what governments, state government, local governments, even special districts, school districts, fire districts, what they can keep and what they have to return to taxpayers. You know, you didn't have internet cybersecurity issues back in 1992. You didn't have huge population growth, which for Jeffco doesn't help the revenue retention they're allowed to keep. Climate change impacts from wildfires and flooding are much worse than in 1992, but Tabor didn't count for any of that. It has really hamstrung governments, and most local governments in our cities have all voted to get out of this revenue cap. Jefferson County is one of just a few that has not been able to get this to pass until this year, right?
Right.
Right. We're going to do it. So, one of the key talking points, if you're talking to people, has to do with this revenue cap, which basically is the property taxes, because that's most of what the incoming revenue to Jefferson County is, other than grants. You know, that gets refunded if it's over the cap to homeowners, commercial businesses, anyone who owns property. And it's been about $22 a year. It's not a huge amount. Some years it's $100, but yeah, it's nothing like the state Tabor refunds people have been getting. This revenue retention measure doesn't touch the state refunds. It doesn't do away with Tabor. You'll hear people saying it takes away Tabor. It doesn't. If the county wants a tax increase, they still have to go to the people like Tabor requires. All it does is remove this limit on the revenue. And like I said, our neighboring counties, even Douglas County and El Paso County, have gotten rid of this revenue cap. And what that does for things like state grants, and if Jeffco does get a state grant of $1 million for something, they then have to take $1 million out of the general fund and do away with, you know, bridge repair, road repair, whatever else, human services, what they were going to spend it on because they're over their cap. Douglas County got $1 million from the state for wildfire prevention as a grant. Jefferson County can't do that, even though our wildfire danger is even worse than Douglas County's. The Proposition 123 affordable housing is another issue. State grants that count against Jefferson County's Tabor cap. They're going to have a real problem meeting and building affordable housing. So we are recommending a yes vote. And just very briefly, the next slide, go back one more. You know, the language is very specific on what the money would be spent. There would be an audit, annual audits to track it. And if it doesn't pass, there, you know, again, Jefferson County will face huge revenue cuts. So we'll stop, but we are recommending a 1A yes for Jefferson County. Next slide. Is your question? Okay, RTD. This is another revenue retention type of issue. Same thing. It doesn't do away with Tabor, but all it does is allow RTD, which is another special district subject to Tabor, to keep the revenue they collect from their 1% sales tax. And you can go to the next page, Taylor. This is too much. So RTD did get an exemption from Tabor in 1999 to help pay off the bonds that they used for building the light rail, Southeast and Southwest Light Rail. Those bonds are about to be paid off. And at the law at that time says you're going to lose your exemption now. So what that would mean is RTD would also be subject to a revenue cap and would have to refund money, just like Jefferson County is having to do. And I won't, RTD has, we all acknowledge has some limitations and things that could be improved, but is a very important service for people on low income, for people who are disabled, or students who get, lower prices. And if we're ever going to truly move into the modern century, we need mass transit. I think that's a fact we all acknowledge. So again, we're urging a yes vote on 7A, RTD revenue retention.
Julie is next with G or G and H. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Julie. I'm gonna give you the cliff notes on G and H. So G would be modifying property tax exemptions for veterans with disabilities. The question is, should more disabled veterans qualify for Colorado's homestead property tax break? The ballot measure was referred to the ballot in the 2023 legislative session by a unanimous vote, Democrats and Republicans. Colorado currently has the homestead tax exemption for seniors 65 and older, who've lived in their homes at least 10 years, veterans with certain service-related disabilities, and the surviving spouse of a U.S. military member who died in the line of duty. The homestead tax exempts 50% up to $200,000 in a home's value from taxes. So Amendment G would just expand the people who are covered by it to include veterans who meet the VA's criteria for total disability individual unemployability, which means they don't make enough money to support themselves. The analysts expect around 3,700 veterans would qualify for this. The impact is 1.8 million less would be collected in property taxes, but due to Tabor requirements, this would impact the amount refunded to taxpayers, not the budgets. As of this date, there's no groups that were formed to support or oppose this, and we recommend supporting this ballot measure. Amendment H is creating a judicial disciplinary independent board that monitors judges' conduct. The ballot measure was referred by the legislature because of recommendations by the Interim Committee on Judicial Discipline. In the current system, the Supreme Court of Colorado is responsible for disciplinary actions, but is not bound by any transparency rules and can keep all the proceedings from the public.
Ignore that.
Thank you. Sorry. In 2021, there were allegations of judicial misconduct that was handled leniently or went unpunished. The interim committee was formed in response to that and has recommended these changes. Those supporting this measure feel the current system lacks transparency, accountability, and independent oversight. Those opposed feel the current system is not only adequate, but preferred because it keeps the power in the hands of those who are familiar with the law and the legal system. Financially, this would cost around $50,000 per year. The biggest non-financial impact would be removing the Colorado Supreme Court from immediate oversight and placing them in a role to decide appeals. The committee would be made up of citizens, lawyers, and judges. We recommend to support this ballot measure. Thank you.
Tim, you're up now.
I am up. We're talking about Amendment I. And this is basically about who gets bail and who doesn't get bail before their trial. In 2020, Colorado outlawed the death penalty. Great. Problem is that we have the mention of the death penalty in our 1876 Constitution that we still use. Am I right about that? Long time Coloradans? I meant new time Coloradan. So the old language said this. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing slightly, a person accused of a crime has a right to bail while they're out of jail, so they can be out of jail awaiting their trial, except under certain conditions, including if for capital offenses. But there are no more capital offenses anymore because we outlawed designating things capital offenses and executing people. So the reason to vote yes is this is a very simple word change. We're getting rid of capital crimes and putting in murder in the first degree. So if you are accused of murder in the first degree, you don't necessarily have a right to bail if this passes. So Colorado Democratic Party supports this. It has the same intent as the original Constitution. It's just updating it so we're not referring to the death penalty when we no longer have one. But there are arguments for voting no. If you believe we should never have people in jail when they haven't been convicted of a crime, then perhaps we should not use this, and instead let me give you an example. A woman kills her abusive husband. It's a murder in the first degree, and a jury might end up saying, you know, she had extenuating circumstances, we're not going to convict her of this. Meanwhile, she spent maybe 90 days in jail waiting for her trial, and maybe she has kids at home that she can't take care of and so forth. So we do not have a recommendation on this. We could have a recommendation on this after you vote. If 60% of you vote yes, we should follow the Colorado Democratic Party on aye. So that's it.
Kathy.
Okay, I have Amendment J, which is repealing the constitutional definition of marriage. It proposes amending the Colorado Constitution to repeal the definition that states only a union of one man and one woman is a valid or recognized marriage in Colorado. I didn't really find anything against this. It sounded like keep the language that was against it. For it, to me, it seemed like a no-brainer. In 2006, voters approved that only the marriage of one man and woman is considered valid. The current language in the Colorado Constitution has been ruled as unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, if the Supreme Court overturns its previous rulings, the definition of marriage would revert to the states. So if you voting yes on this amendment would not allow same-sex marriages to be prohibited. Sorry about the double negative. Anyway, all Coloradans deserve the freedom to marry the person they love. And this amendment is endorsed by many mental health, progressive, and faith organizations. And we also the leaders recommend yes on this.
All right, so Amendment K is to modify the constitutional election deadlines. And this year is actually a good example of how you've got so many things on the ballot, and the poor counties have to try and scramble to get all this done with not very much time to do it. So what this is proposing is that we would have an amendment to the Constitution that would require the deadlines to be moved 1 week farther back, away from the election. They give the county clerks of court more time to get all their ducks in a row. It also means that if you are collecting signatures, then you have to get those in a week earlier as well. This is another administrative change to the Constitution, so it would require a 55% approval in order to be enacted. The amendment itself was drafted by the Colorado County Clerks Association. Basically, everybody supports it. The Colorado Democratic Party, the League of Women Voters, the Colorado Working Families Party, the Colorado Republican Party opposes this. But if you go to their website, they don't say why. So, to some, the APA leadership suggests that we vote yes on Amendment K.
All right, that's me. All right, so this is another sort of revenue cap bill. There's a lot of them this year. So this is to retain additional sports betting revenue, tax revenue, and this would go to fund water conservation projects instead of refunding that revenue to casinos. So right now, their sports betting was made legal by, if we go to the next slide, I think it says Proposition DD, and that was like a couple years back. And so it was made legal to fund these water conservation projects. Now they've been collecting more revenue than DD allowed. So they want to be able to keep that additional revenue. The reason this is, the pro arguments are that the Colorado is growing, water infrastructure, water is a scarce resource in Colorado, and so more infrastructure projects for water would be important and used. And this is not a tax raise, this is revenue that's already being collected, and it would refund to the casinos, which I don't know, that doesn't seem like a great, so the anti-argument is just, the DD had a cap on it, and that's what we voted for, so we have to vote again to give them the full amount. So that's what this is. We recommend voting yes on this amendment. And then the next one I think is also mine, Proposition KK. Firearms and ammunition tax. This is a new tax. This is actually a brand new tax. This would increase the taxes by, and now we're having another cap, so we'll probably be voting on this years from now if it's more, but tabor cap, to remove the tabor cap from it. But so you're going to increase taxes on gun and ammunition sales. It will go to fund mental health services for military veterans, at-risk youth, school safety, and gun violence prevention, and support victims of domestic violence and other violent crimes. This is, I kind of think it's a no-brainer. We have a gun violence epidemic in our country. We also have a mental health epidemic. We've run into lots of issues with like banning firearms outright. Like, well, how do we, it's not the guns, it's people with mental health problems with guns. Well, here's a way to help those people with mental health problems maybe choose not to shoot another person. So I would recommend voting yes. Of course, the people that are the opposition, do not want more taxes. So this is a tax, an additional tax. If you own a firearm, it may impact you financially slightly, but leadership do recommend a yes vote. Also, the Colorado PTA, the Jeffco's Teachers Union, Every Town for Gun Safety, they also are supporting this amendment. Yeah, and now it's next one.
Okay. Kathy?
Yes, I have the other healthcare one, Amendment 79. It would make abortion a constitutional right in Colorado and prohibit state and local governments from denying, impeding, or discriminating against exercising that right. It also would repeal an existing Colorado constitutional provision banning the use of public funds, which would be like Medicaid and health insurance plans for the state and local government employees for abortion services. So, pro arguments, Coloradans deserve the freedom to make personal, private healthcare decisions, and that shouldn't depend on the source of their health insurance or who is in office. And that it would allow people that are enrolled in state health insurance plans, teachers, firefighters, and other state employees to have coverage if they choose to have an abortion. Now, against this bill, it seemed to me mainly about Coloradans that they are opposed to abortion for personal, religious, and moral reasons. And they basically say taxpayers should not be forced to pay for services which they object to. State law does allow exceptions in cases where the mother's life is in danger. And that they also say that constitutional amendment is not necessary because we do have access now, but several things could change. That's my oh, okay. So my opinion, and everybody agreed here, was to vote yes on this one. Improving mental and physical health of Coloradans, and we all making choices for our own bodies is a really important health thing to happen.
Oh, this is me again. Okay. Amendment 80. So this is the constitutional right to school choice in K-12 education. Basically, this amendment would put in the state constitution establishing the right to school choice, and declaring that choice includes neighborhood charter, private schools, homeschooling, open enrollment options, and future innovations in education. Going to the next slide. While this measure seems to simply expand options that parents may choose their children's education, school choice is already legally available in Colorado. This measure is really about opening the door to educational vouchers. It's deceptive. Parents already have the right to choose. Their options already are neighborhood, charter, private, homeschool. There's no need to codify this. They have a strong school choice already. What this would open it up to is sending public funds to private schools. The reason this is a problem is that private schools can legally discriminate against students. So they are not required to take a student with disabilities. They are not required to provide additional services to students with higher needs. They can reject those students. And if funding leaves the public schools and goes to private schools, the public schools are already very woefully underfunded and would be even more strapped for cash. So this would be a terrible decision for Colorado schools. So I could go very much farther into this, but we essentially are recommending a no vote. The Colorado PTA, the Jeff Coast Teachers Association, Advocates for Public Education, League of Women Voters, they are all opposed to this amendment as well. The argument for is just sort of enshrining the right for parents to make a choice, which they already have that choice. Parents are welcome to homeschool or go to private schools now. They do have to pay for it out of their own funds. So that's the opposition's problem. But yeah, paying for homeschooling for students students to attend private schools would create devastating budget deficit in Colorado. And this is already happening in places like Arizona, and it's causing a huge budget deficit for the public schools, and it's a mess. And so you can just see a neighboring state that it's a real problem. So there's an example of what it could happen to Colorado if this passes. So I'm done there. Vote no.
Proposition 127 outlaws the hunting of mountain lions, bobcats, and lynx. We are not taking a position on that, although again, with your vote, we as a large group could take a position on that. Let me give you a little background. Before 1965, Colorado paid bounties on mountain lions. In other words, encouraged people to kill mountain lions. The number got down to about 150 of them, 125 of them statewide. Since then, hunters must buy a tag to shoot big cats. And state wildlife experts control the number of tags that are given out each year. Current numbers, we have about 3,000 to 4,000 mountain lions. I don't have the number on bobcats and lynx. Approximately 500 are harvested, using the hunter's term, harvested each year. So 500 harvested each year and fairly steady at 3,000 to 4,000. Reasons to vote yes, and Michelle can help during the Q&A because Michelle's here advocating for a yes vote on this. So she can fill in what I leave out or get wrong. Currently, hunters use dogs with GPSs to tree these animals, which does not seem very sporting. Outfitters charge $8,000 to take you out and kill a mountain lion in a tree and guarantee you a kill. That's interesting. So is it? Yeah, I don't know. Secondly, big cats help cull deer with chronic wasting disease. So that's a problem among the deer population. Those weaker deer get culled out by mountain lions. When hunters, and this is the one that I found most interesting, when hunters kill dominant males, and they do that because they want the big trophy on the wall, then that leaves younger males without mentors and maybe without the skill to take down an elk or a moose, and therefore they're more likely to go into populated areas for easier food. That's really interesting. Catsaren'ttrophies.org has a science page. If you want to look at the science behind their positions on this, I think that's useful. On the other hand, the no side argues that the science is on their side. They say this is ballot box biology, letting uninformed voters vote based on sympathy and romanticism about cats. We don't protect deer, but we do protect cats. And they argue this is a foot in the door. Even though this is only protecting 3 animals, this is anti-hunting and it's a foot in the door, and we'll go after other hunters too. They argue big cat hunting is no different than other game species. They also note that lynx are on the endangered species list, so they're protected by the US government. There's no reason to have them in this at all. And they note that ranchers get reimbursed when big game kill their stock. If we outlaw killing mountain lions, then they are no longer big game, and ranchers will no longer get reimbursed when mountain lions kill their stock. I would think that would be easily corrected with another law, but that's what they argue. Michelle tells me that Colorado Dems used to have no position on this, and they changed it to a yes vote. I can't confirm that, but and it's not on their webpage. Where is it?
It's the Jeffco Dems who did.
Jeffco Dems did that, not
Jeffco
Colorado
Dems, it is on their
Dems.
webpage, and Colorado Working Family Party.
Got it.
Of course, yes.
Thank you very much. So we do not take a position on this proposition.
Okay, I guess I'm up next. Okay, Proposition 128, parole eligibility for crimes of violence. The push is from Michael Fields to raise the time that you have to stay in jail if you've been convicted of the crimes that are listed up there. Right now, that's 75% you have to serve before you're eligible for parole. They want to move it to 85%. An example of a 20-year sentence, if it effectively would add a year, but it would also, it could also add up to 25 million to the budget by the time they start a tracking system with a new computer upgrade, and depending on how many more people they have to hire in the prisons and all that kind of thing, which is also hard to hire for right now. It to me doesn't seem like a really good idea. The arguments for it are justice. The families deserve justice who have suffered from some of these. I get that. But it also removes the incentive for the people who are in prison to behave and start earning enough credits to get out after 75% of your sentence instead of 85%. The Colorado for Smart Justice, which is opposed to this, said it would significantly delay discretionary parole, and it would undermine the Colorado's current parole system and balloon the state prison budget. From what I can tell, the people who are for it are Michael Fields, which is Advanced Colorado's Institute. He's the president. Their website says Colorado's team of professionals and allies are at work every day to push back on the progressive policies that have put our state on the wrong track. They're big time Tabor people. And anyway, I suggested, or we all suggested on that one. And then 129, that one's mine too. Establish a veterinary professional association or associate degree. It would put in the middle. Right now, you've got your veterinarian and you've got your vet techs in a typical office. And this is proposing to stick another degree in there in the middle. Right now, there's nothing like that anywhere in the nation. they're suggesting that this mid-level professional who would have a master's degree would be able to do some surgeries and prescribe meds. Feds say you can't do that unless you're a licensed veterinarian. So it doesn't make any sense to add something in there when we already have vet techs and we have veterinarians. Raise up the vet techs to some kind of level, but most of the medical associations, veterinary medical associations, are absolutely opposed to this. And it seems like it's coming from humane societies, and I think they're looking for some kind of cheaper people for their spay and neuter clinics. It's all I can, that's all I can come up with. So we decided that we would not recommend this proposition.
Yeah, investigated, Proposition 130, funding for law enforcement. What this does is it sets up a 350 million one-time appropriation to set up a fund to help hire, train, give bonuses to police officers. And it would also set up a one-time death benefit for police officers and firefighters and other first responders. The first part would not be available for fire and that sort of thing, but just the increased money spent on policing, basically, as well as bonuses. As it states, the Blue Book has a little outline up there about who's currently covered. You have the Fire and Police Pension Association, which provides death benefits, and then you have para that also covers death benefits, and so there's somewhat of a patchwork, but most of them do have death benefits. The pro argument is that this increases funding for policing without raising taxes, which I'll get into that a little bit later, what that does. And the state has a vested interest in helping local governments recruit police. And the law, they say law enforcement agency death benefits differ, with some providing fewer deaths than others. But the reasons to vote against it is that it is even if police are underfunded, this takes $350 million in a budget that's already constrained by Tabor, and may even have to have cuts even if this does not go through, bypasses any budget process, any prioritizing of funds. Also the 350 million would be administered by the Colorado Department of Public Safety, and there's no guidelines how it's to be distributed, and there's no standards and for it. This is opposed by the Colorado Fiscal Institute, and we have recommended strongly to vote no on it and allow the budget process to fund the priorities. Do I have any time now?
No, you don't.
I didn't see. Well, that about goes. Okay, the next one is Proposition 131 concerning the conduct of elections.
And this is the last one, everyone.
What this does is it sets up it changes the primary process in a big way, and for certain offices that are listed up there, U.S. Senate and various things. But it replaces our current primary system with an open primary, where anyone and everyone can get into the primary. And what this does is it allows money to back more candidates and control the process. Even libertarians are complaining that they could back 4 candidates and push the libertarians off the ballot. So it's kind of called the jungle primary, and it would make it it would overload our current system of nominating people. The people for it talk about the ranked choice voting. They don't talk about the open primary. And ranked choice voting has worked in certain jurisdictions. It worked well in Boulder to elect the mayor. People were allowed to vote for.
It wasn't that well that it
Well,
worked
they
there.
they were able to vote for candidate endorsed by the socialists. And then it went to the other candidate, and he was elected. But they gave them an opportunity to vote for someone that they really liked. But it is a nightmare, and it. Which time I have left?
I'm cutting you slack.
So I'll just finish up.
Yeah, I know.
Saying that,
All right.
yeah, I'll just finish up saying that we have strongly recommended a no vote on this. All the political parties oppose it. The Jefferson County League of Women Voters opposes it. The state, I think, supports it.
Yes, I messed that up on the.
Yeah, you got that back.
presentation. I'll
Okay.
fix it before it goes online.
And I have a list of all the organizations that are opposing it, if you're interested.
Well, now we're going to Q&A, so you can ask questions about that last one.
Okay.
I have a question. Is there any way that we can get this slide deck into some sort of position where people could download it?
Yes, it'll be posted online,
All right. So,
and it'll be sent out in our newsletter too.
right. So it's pretty hard to read this stuff as we're going through it. So what I would suggest is that if people are interested in the research that we've done, that you go ahead and you download this and look at it in full screen, full living color.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to say is I'm encouraging everybody to vote as the day you get your ballot. So people who are interested in getting out the vote don't have to waste time and money trying to make sure everybody's voting.
So do your research on the judges now.
Thank you.
Joe.
Thanks. I understand I'm supposed to phrase this as a question. So I'll do my best. Thank you, Jim, for the summary. And I wanted to phrase it as a question, although it sounds like
You don't have
to
to phrase it.
No.
It can be a comment.
So, yes, as Jim said at the end, Jefferson County has endorsed it. It's on their website. Also, Colorado Working Families Party endorsed a yes vote on 127. And there is no ecological or biological science to support trophy hunting or fur trapping of bobcats. We allow unlimited fur trapping for the international fur market. It's the luxury fur market. We have a fur auction every year in Holly, Colorado that goes on. And so that launders the furs out to the international marketplace for the luxury fur market. It's unknown how many animals we actually have because they're not counted. So it's currently unlimited and about 1,000 are killed every year. On trophy hunting of mountain lions, as Jim said, it's a pack of dogs. They're radio collars, and they are. It's cruel. It's unsporting. It orphans kittens. 47% last year were female. Adult females are responsible for young 75% of the time. So it's and as also Jim did mention, aside from the orphaning kittens, the ones that are left, it skews the age spectrum to younger, less skilled, and the research shows that they're more likely to attack people, pets, and livestock. So this is a recreational activity. Our wildlife agency says it is a recreational activity. There is not biological benefit to it or ecological benefit. Mountain lions are the best tool we have for chronic wasting disease. So for those who hunt deer and elk, they're increasingly having an increasing risk of getting a chronic wasting disease animal that they should not eat. And I think that is probably the main things. There's some, so as to close, both Jefferson County and Working Families Party recommended a yes on that.
So,
Thank you so much.
so I think it's interesting that Prop 127 on this is called prohibit trophy hunting, but that's not what it's called in the blue book. And I think that's a little,
What's it called?
biased. It's called prohibit bobcat, lynx, and mountain lion hunting.
Okay. We might have paraphrased it.
Yeah, the
Sorry.
summary is because those are the,
It's a
Yes.
paraphrase with a bias.
well, that's the only reason they are hunted, is for trophy and fur. That's, that.
Although,
we
to
don't eat
clarify,
cats.
We should-
my understanding
we
is
should
Colorado state
correct
law
the
says
slide
if you
deck.
kill a mountain lion, if you hunt for a mountain lion and kill it, you are expected to eat the meat.
Right.
So here's what the law says. It says you are, for mountain lion, it says you have to prepare for human consumption, which means that they take out certain parts of the mountain lion. And most states that allow mountain lion trophy hunting do not have that requirement, and therefore the hunters don't do it. But there is no requirement to eat it. I mean, CPW is not sitting in people's kitchens. We don't eat cat. It's not part of our culture. And most states that allow trophy hunting and mountain lions do not have that requirement. Thank you for, thanks for the opportunity.
And Pat, it's correct. If you go to slide 27 in the deck, it's got the full, it's,
Oh,
the
okay.
name is prohibit bobcat, lynx, and mountain lion
Okay.
hunting. I think it might have just been a
Oh, I'm sorry. May I add one more thing?
paraphrase.
Regarding the lynx, so the same dogs and baited traps that are used to hunt mountain lions and catch bobcats, they're non-selective. So those same dogs can chase and harm lynx. And there's a reason why lynx that were introduced 40 years ago are still endangered, even without hunting. And biologists, the research biologists that I've read think they're freezing to death in the traps at night. That is one of the research things that I did read.
Do I have to come up there?
It'd probably be easier for the owl to hear you, but
There's no owl hunting either. Everything we got.
So I'm gonna ask a leading question. Would it be okay if I explained another part of Amendment 80 that's very bad?
yes, please do.
Thank you. So Amendment 80, so-called school choice, also says that parents would have the right to direct their children's education. And so that would mean that parents would have a constitutional right to go into any school and say, I don't want you to teach this, I want you to teach that, I don't want gay kids in my kids' class, I want you to fire this teacher. Whatever they want to do to direct the education of their children, and they would have a constitutional right to do that. So it would supersede the right of the legislature to direct public education. It would supersede the right of the school board to direct education. It would supersede the right of the principal and the teachers, and every individual parent would have a constitutional right to do that. And they wouldn't all agree. So there would likely to be a lot of court cases, a lot of people suing, and parents might sue other parents because I don't want you to direct what happens in my kid's classroom the way you want. So it would create utter chaos.
Stevie, I have a question on that. Is that because in the ballot language, it doesn't, I've seen that argument a couple places, but in the ballot language, it doesn't say directing.
It says that.
It says, shall there, and I'm wondering if
If you look in the first paragraph,
shall the amendment to the Colorado Constitution establishing the right to school choice for children kindergarten through 12th grade and connection therewith, declaring that school choice includes neighborhood charter, private schools, homeschooling, open enrollment, and future innovations in education. Am I missing something?
you're not reading the whole thing.
Is it? That's what I'm wondering. It's
Okay,
like,
yeah, I brought the blue book.
okay, I'd like to see it because I'm missing that in my, in my description.
Okay. So,
And I'm just wondering if it's like a subtext or if it's in the actual language.
okay, so, you are reading the beginning of the blue book, but not the actual words of the ballot issue. So that you're looking at page 20. You need to look at the text, which is back here on, I gotta find the right page.
Wouldn't it have to say it in the language that's on the ballot?
The title.
The title.
No, there's stuff in the actual,
The text of it
it's
that's not,
actually written in
okay,
the law that not exactly what's in it.
gotcha, written in the text. Okay,
It-
that's
it-
where I was confused. I'm like, don't we
Right,
have to
it's in
put
the-
that on the
It's
ballot?
in the actual text, believe me, I looked at that,
Yeah,
I'm,
It's on page 64, Evie.
thank you. I
okay.
should memorize.
I believe you. I just was like, where do you
I know.
find
See,
that
We'll collect
information
that-
out?
The
They'll collect
the
it
blue
later.
book
Yeah, well.
is
we're
they
gonna-
do this little
we're
summary
collecting it at this
thing
meeting.
in the
Yeah.
front.
Okay.
Then they give you the actual wording in the back. People don't always know
We'll still discuss
to
it.
go to the back and look at the actual text. Because if you look at the text of the measure, section 1, in the middle of that paragraph, it says that parents have the right to direct the education of their children.
Okay.
And I didn't have time to talk to the legislative committee that was working on the wording for the blue book, so they skipped right over that. And a lot, yeah, and it's a big deal, and that's why PTA is, I'm also the vice president of advocacy for Colorado PTA. And we are focusing on this and trying to let people know that that is as dangerous as the other
The
part,
funding part.
the allowing the funding of vouchers. And may I just tell you the backstory why they want this in that part in the Constitution?
Sure.
So about 20 or 30 years ago, the legislature, when the Republicans controlled the House and the Senate, and a Republican was the governor, they passed a law allowing vouchers. And then there was a lawsuit against it. And PTA was one of the lead plaintiffs on that lawsuit. And we won the lawsuit, and it was declared unconstitutional because of provisions in our Constitution. So if this passes, it would supersede the current constitutional prohibition on vouchers. And that's the real reason they're doing it. Don't listen to any other excuse they give for this. That's the real reason, because there's a lot of money in private schools and they want public money to go to it.
Yeah.
And in Arizona, you mentioned Arizona. So Arizonians were told it would cost 65 million a year, and it ended up costing 500 million a year. And now Arizona has a $1.8 billion budget deficit. They don't even have Tabor. And they have a budget deficit because of their voucher law.
Taken out of the public schools into
And
private schools.
taking money from public schools and giving it to private schools. And don't forget the homeschool thing here, because then homeschoolers would say, wait a minute, I have a constitutional right for you to give me money to homeschool my kid.
Mhm.
And then any educational innovation part is so incredibly vague that
Hiring a robot.
yeah, that's right. Like Jack's Golf School of Education would say, I have a constitutional right. I'm an innovation.
Yeah.
Any innovation. is
Any
it.
innovation is so vague.
Moscow Law School.
Yeah,
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
yes.
Thanks, Evie.
And
All
to
right,
follow
now
up
can I
on
come
that.
Back up and do a different one?
Oh, sure.
I have only 2 issues that
Do
I'm
we have
passionate
any-
about.
Have questions?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Taylor, anyone online have questions?
No.
All right. So, I would ask, who's supporting Proposition 131? Well, it turns out that the only people who are paying for the campaign, you might see groups that are supporting it,
a few. I have a big, huge list of groups opposed to it, but if the campaign is being paid for by 3 multimillionaires. The first one, the main one, is Ken Thyre, and he wanted to be nominated for governor, but the Republicans didn't pick him. So he thinks he can use this because he could spend unlimited amount of money to put ads on television. He could afford to pay something to mail every single voter in the state. He's that rich. And say, vote for Ken Thyre in the jungle primary. And one of the other multimillionaires supporting it is the head of Netflix. Now, why, you might ask, why are multimillionaires supporting it? Because they have enough money that they could buy their way into being elected by paying for name recognition. The current primary allows in political parties, people like me who are not rich at all. I was able to get nominated to the ballot through the party process. And I didn't have a primary, but I avoided one going through the party process.
So clarify, currently a millionaire could spend as much as they want in Colorado but they'd have to go through the Democratic or Republican Party or the Libertarians or somebody else.
Well, no, I mean, to get somebody nominated, the nomination is by party. At the party primaries, you get the ballot. If you're a Democrat, you get the Democratic primary ballot. Republican, you get and if you're unaffiliated, you get to pick which one you want.
What if you're a libertarian?
You get to pick which one you want.
Yeah,
So now
you get to be in the libertarian primary.
So now the millionaires can spend their.
But
They have their own nominating.
They have their own nominating process, but they don't do the primary. Because they do their nominations over the summer before the ballot 131 would force them to move it back before the June primary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, although those other, we call them minority parties, would be forced to do their nominating process before the June primary so their candidates could get on this jungle primary.
Right.
As some people call
Today,
it.
people, if you have a lot of money, you can still subvert the process, but the Democrats can still put who they want, the Republicans, the Libertarians, and then you're competing in the general.
And you only vote for one person.
Yeah, and you don't.
This would allow you to vote for ranking them.
Yeah, you rank.
And so what happened in Boulder with the mayor's race, that's why I had to speak up at that time, is that the Democrat won as mayor of Boulder by 400 votes because of ranked choice voting, because the fourth one and the third choices go toward the second choice.
Right.
Okay, and so and people don't understand the ranked choice. It would be very confusing. And by the way, your ballot would have 2 parts, or you would have to get 2 ballots. I don't know. Your ballot would have 2 parts. One part would be voting for president, pick one. And then all these state level races, ranked choice. And then everybody else pick one.
Okay, yeah, I just need to point some things out. You're totally right about the confusion, but the way ranked choice works, and it worked in Boulder, because the way it works is you rank them 1, 2, 3, and 4 if there's 4 candidates. So if you don't like the major party candidate, but you don't want the other major party candidate to be elected because they're a lot worse, you can vote for like the socialist candidate. So the socialist candidate got a significant number of votes.
But on the other hand,
their second choice was the existing mayor, who was more moderate than the Republican. And those votes then went to him, and he won the election. It worked exactly the way it was supposed to.
But on the other hand, you might pick I, as a Democrat, might pick the Republican as my second choice because it says I could vote for 4. See, right now you can only vote for 1. But in ranked choice voting, I could rank the Republican second.
Right.
And if the Democrat didn't get over 50%, then my vote for the Republican would actually be cast. And I don't really want to vote for a
Well,
Republican.
First of all, you don't have.
And so you don't have to,
First of all, you
but the
don't
voters
have
are gonna be
you don't have to
told.
rank,
You
you don't have to
have,
rank it.
I know, but when they get the ballot and they see,
And then
rank them.
if you don't want, if you don't want the Republican, why would you rank them number 2?
Right.
Well,
I
you
don't
could be
understand.
number 4, but you don't know what other people will
And
do.
the people whose votes move are the ones with the least votes,
That's right. And by the way,
okay?
the jungle primary requires the top 4 vote getters to be on your primary ballot. So in certain places, the political parties wouldn't be able, their person probably would not win. And therefore, it's the top 4 vote getters. So certain parties would not have the option of having their candidate on the ballot.
Right.
And if you
We
support
would push
these
that-
minority parties and you think they should be able to put a candidate on the ballot, I'm sure that in the jungle primary, their people will not win.
Mhm.
And so in certain districts, you might have 4 Democrats on the general election ballot. I thought the purpose of a primary was to pick 1 from each party, but this changes it radically.
This is an open primary, like.
The,
California.
the other point that I would make too is that there's this strange mixture of who this law applies to and who it doesn't apply to. And you may have noticed in the past week that there were a series of mayors who came out and said that they support this. Mayors are not included.
That's right.
So why would they support this? The elections, like the Denver City Council election, where you had like 18 people on the ballot, that actually is a perfect place where you want to have ranked choice voting, and that's not going to happen. So the legislation that's being proposed here is truly, in my mind, batshit crazy, and it should be opposed not with respect to ranked choice voting, but it should be opposed with respect to the primary system. I believe
2 separate.
Yeah.
there's 2 separate issues.
God as a single subject, I don't understand.
Yeah.
They're 2 separate issues. I'm a Democrat.
You're an advocate for ranked choice voting.
I am. And I'm a Democrat, and I believe in strong parties. I believe that people have the right to gather as individuals, like we are gathering here as individuals, and make a statement as to what it is that we believe in. And this, in my opinion, would take that away from us. We have a system in Colorado right now where unaffiliated voters are able to participate in the primaries. So even though the Democrats are having a primary, unaffiliated voters get to vote. So where exactly is the issue here where unaffiliated people don't have a voice?
I don't think it's about unaffiliated people. I agree. I am an unaffiliated person. And I'm not complaining about that, but I don't think we should be a 2-party system.
Well, and if you see the advertising that is like, at this point, is like probably 10-1 in favor of this.
Yeah.
All they talk about is ranked choice voting, and they have people talking about, I'm unaffiliated and I don't get to have a voice. Well,
You get to have a voice, and you can still vote for whoever you want. As a Democrat, I could vote for a Republican. Nothing stops me. But in the primary, the primary election stops me.
Yeah.
I can only vote for who I think should be the nominee of the party that I'm registered in. But in the general election, I can vote for whoever I want.
But you can change your party affiliation.
And you can change it at any time.
To be included in that primary. And
Yes,
then change it back, right?
yes, yes.
I agree with Taylor. The problem with this is the open
Right.
primary and the dominance of money in the open primary. We could very easily finance 4 candidates and push valid candidates off the ballot.
Mhm.
Yep.
So I think APA's, like, when we talked about this, we want to vote no. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm like, am I voting yes or no? Like, depending on, we want to vote no, but it's not because we're opposed to ranked choice voting in the general. We are, well, except for maybe Evie. But it's because we are opposed to ranked choice voting in the primary. So
No,
oh, sorry, in the jungle primary, we are opposed to the open primary
Candidate primary.
and all
That's what it's
candidate
called.
primary, because
Yeah.
that would exclude a lot of, like, it would exclude independent. The independent party is opposed to it. The Green Party is opposed to it. The Unity Party is opposed to it because they want to put forth their own candidates into the general election.
And they chances are with.
And chances are that they wouldn't even get a candidate in onto the general election with this.
Do we want to try and collect these and tabulate them?
Yeah, we're at the end, so does anybody else have any other questions or comments about any of the ballot measures before we end?
We're definitely.
On the veterinarian one,
Yeah.
the people you mentioned all have a financial stake in their opinions, so all the vets that they didn't want a competition with these people that were sub-vets.
No, that's not true. I heard this morning a veterinarian.
Yeah,
At the-
veterinarian that has a.
Yeah, but he explained that it's there by state law, only veterinarians can make certain decisions. So these people can't do certain things and the vet still has to do it.
Remember?
Well, he said it would actually,
Charge $100.
no, he said it would make pet care more expensive. He explained.
So are we going to try and tabulate and announce?
Yeah, that takes certain things, and they support.
Yeah, we got a bunch of bad pens. Well, Darlene, what I found too, if you like, if you shake it, you can actually make it work.
All the surveys with them, the online tools.
Did you fill out a ballot?
I did, and I already handed it in.
Okay.
They would, the people to get to, they would have to.
I think we should.
Plus their master.
So
So it's-
online too,
It
right?
shows those benefits down even in Arvada,
Leadership.
in the ability to.
People on Zoom, people on Zoom, I just sent you a link so you can go ahead and you can vote too.
There's no way.
Did everyone on Zoom get your link?
They will be smack.
I just put my comments in chat. Is that fine?
I don't think it can.
It's a really easy comment.
Let's hear it.
Who do I give it to?
Here, I've got a pen.
Yeah, right, be enough.
The invisible writing.
Thank you for your input. We did as much as we could.
I accidentally took Joanne's card home. Can't get back. Lost my bag.
All right. I'm going to stop recording this.
Oh.
Well, this one though.